Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Sandman Season 1, Episode 5. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I love this episode having, like, at least a little over half of this episode is just one set piece. It's the diner. And I love how so much goes over. It happens. And I love the creepiness of it and just how it's done. You know, in actuality, just kind of on the DC Vertigo front, it reminded me of something, not one-to-one, but with like how much control the Ruby gives him over people. It very much made me think of like Preacher. It made me think of like the Ruby equivalent being the equivalency to the Word of God. It kind of reminded me in that regard of like the way he was kind of pushing people. And I thought that was such an interesting thing because for him, he's like, this world is based on lies. And he's seeing all these interactions between all these people in this diner, and he's just seeing them lie in these pretenses. Because it's the thing of like, right, humans might lie on a daily basis because sometimes the truth, that it's always that complicated thing of like, white lies are necessary because should you say everything that's on your mind, but you know, someone growing up under his circumstances, Johnny believes like, no, the world would be better off without lies. All lies do is people lie on every day. This entire world is built on lies. That's how he plans to save people, make a world where people tell the truth. Because he asked Bets like, oh, you think I'm handsome? She's like, no, I don't. And she was almost like, wait, why did I say that? And it's like, then why did you say it? She's like, because I wanted to make you feel, I wanted you to like me. And he's like, oh, doesn't that feel good? Shit, together, we're going to make a world like this. So she ends up being like the one he ends up pushing. And I guess it's like, I don't know whether she becomes the foundation that every time she interacts with someone over the course of like in the confines of that place, it ends up shifting them. Like it's almost like a virus where like it's pouring from her to one person to the next. Because just a little interactions here and there, was it Mark and Kate, the Marsh situation, everything between, no, Mark is, the dude trying to get the job, Kate's husband, I'm blanking on its name now, which is kind of so sad considering everything, but it's like the lies that people kind of tell themselves. It's like the wounds that are festering, as Dream kind of puts it later on, that never had an opportunity to heal. The truth has kind of been revealed. It's like a giant band-aid is like been ripped off and the wound is gaping and open, and the fact is that it's slowly becoming infected, and now like people are speaking their truths, but it turned ugly because it's not even just about truth anymore. You are twisting people to kind of be what you want. And he's trying to justify it later, saying, I'm not doing that. Everything you did was you. I just like removed the haze of all those lies in front of you. Everything you did was 100% on you, which yeah, there's some truth to that. But like the fact is because he believes the world is better off without lies. But which, I mean, maybe you can make an argument that on some philosophical level, like humans spend so much of their time lying, but it's like I said, you enter that territory where, like, not all lies are bad. Because, you know, like, because some truths are too painful to say and shouldn't be heard. Because some truths, it's just you being mean. And there's no need to be. Like, Kate and her husband fighting over, like, that burger. And it's just like, all right, let's concede. But it's like, yeah, maybe the argument could be like, well, if they were more truthful from the beginning, there wouldn't be all that resentment. Once again, it's like they never took, like, it needs to be a slow process. Once again, he just ripped the Band-Aids off. Like, it's like, yeah, like, no leading up to it, no good opportunity to heal. He's jumping them all in feet first, you know? And so then there's the whole Bet and Marsh thing, which I was wondering what was up with that. She wanted there to be something between them. Turns out the only reason Marsh goes over to her house is like, well, I get someone cooking for me and I like being around you and your son Bernard. Also, me and Bernard fuck. I fuck him, he fucks me. I'm like, oh, that's it. And she's like, but he's a kid. And she's like, he's 21. So I'm like, because I was kind of scared. I was like, oh, wait, isn't it? But she was like, right, he is home from college. So you're like, okay, so he's an adult. But I'm like, hopefully it hasn't been happening that often. Like, that this dates back. Hopefully there's some consent involved. But it's like the ugliness of lies and truths. And, you know, kind of like maybe the argument being, and I think in, from Johnny's perspective, this is the true face of humanity, what humans hide beneath all those lies, all that selfishness. Because I'd assume, like, right, his thing is, like, he wants to remove the world's lies, and the Ruby is making that dream come true, so he has that power to remove that, but he's also, like, controlling people's minds, and just, once again, like, things get darker and creepier, and then, like, things escalate, and just, like, periodically throughout it, you're just seeing him moving from his booth to the booth that he's sitting with Judy. And then Judy's talking about the Donna thing. She got mad at Mark because Mark was like, oh, she's not texting you back. And it's like, because she doesn't want to talk to you. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Once again, like, that 100% unabashed honesty, being blunt, isn't always a good thing. Like, lying, it isn't just lying. There is a tact to just, but, that I think that's a conversation in itself. Like, once again, I don't think it is so clear, black and white, when it comes to truth and lies. I think there is many shades of gray. But it's just because his circumstance, if it's upbringing, Johnny feels like he knows what's best for everyone. He believes that the world needs kind of a reset to get rid of all of its lies. And it's something I'd have to go back and watch the episode, because they make a point to have the TV on in the background. And as things are escalating inside the diner, you see the weather's getting worse and worse outside. And then as the episode progresses, you're hearing more and more about some of the tragedy around the world. Because Dream talks about it later, that when he touched the stone at the end of last episode, there's a lot of his power already in the ruby. Even more of it got zapped out when he, so Johnny's even more powerful. Like, who's to say this diner is his first stop? He's probably, like, along the way, he was probably, like, stopping from place to place, causing chaos. And this there might be a time gap between last episode and this episode. Or maybe it's just the ruby being in this world and him pushing that power. Maybe it's spreading further and further, or like I said, maybe he could have just been walking for a long time after he left Rosemary last episode and just going from place to place, testing it out, changing the world into like this beautiful world he wanted it to be. And just things get nasty and ugly, and obviously like Kate's husband ends up getting killed by Mark. He was just defending himself, but then things escalate, and Kate's the one that figured out, right, you're the one behind all this. He's like, no, I just got rid of all the lies around you. Because everyone was hooking up. Mark and Kate's husband, Marsh and Kate's husband, Mark and Kate, Judy and Bet. And then he proceeds to have them hurt themselves, because it's like, right, I tried to give you an ending to your suffering, but you like that suffering, you enjoy that suffering, just kind of the suffering that is everyday human life of just telling these lies, Because he believes himself to be better. No one asked you to be the arbiter to kind of decide humanity's fate, to make this decision for them. But it's just, the ruby is not meant for mortal hands, and all it's doing is twisting and contorting his own desires. Because maybe his upbringing, his mom didn't do the best job, and she even apologized for not being the best mom. The way she handled things, which, it was just her way of handling things. Now it's like all those truths revealed, all those years of lies. I mean, he even brought it up last episode, which I forgot to talk about. What he had told Rosemary, he was not locked up in prison, but he was in a psychiatric facility for 30 years. And how much of that was just the ruby's influence? Most likely, a lot of it was. It probably ate away his mind and his sanity, and he believes like, no, this ruby is mine. That's why he probably killed people over it, because it's like, oh, they wanted to take it from me, probably because just like Bet, it figured it out, and everyone picked up knives to try and kill him. He made them put the knives down, so that's probably when he had to kill people. It's like when they tried to take the jewel, because they found out what he was doing. It's too much power to be in any human's hands. Humans cannot be trusted with that. And Dream found it. And I love like that thing where he ended up having everyone like kind of kill themselves, and then like has Bet like stab herself in the eyes, because he's like, right, you need to be, for you to finally see the future I'm trying to make, you need to be blinded. And I guess, I don't know if that was his intention from the beginning, or whether they just showed up using Judy, Kate, and Bet as their representatives, but the Sisters of Fate showed up. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he purposely made a sacrifice, an offering to them in this form to get them summoned, or whether they decided to come to him because it's like, oh, you're a human wielding power of an endless, that you should have that. And it's like, right, he's like, it's like you started as dust and basically you'll end as dust. And he's like, no, tell me my future. And they're telling him it won't go the way you want it to. But then they're like, yeah, you'll hold the heart of the endless one, Dream, in your hands. And I'm like, I guess in the end they did tell you, but it's like, just like Lucien had warned Dream when he visited the first time, they talk in riddles, and they definitely did, because it's like they were truthful to some extent, like, oh, you have his life in his hands, but it wasn't quite what he thought it would be. I ended up loving that explanation from Dream when he was kind of breaking it all down, when he was talking, like, obviously it's like, oh, you're the Sandman, you're the one that they've talked so much about, you're the one my mom was saying that you'd come for, and he's like, yes, like, give it to me, but he's like, no, it's mine. he's like, look, I got rid of all of these lies, but Dream was like, no. The thing that kept them going is their dreams. It's not the lies you took away from them. And, you know, maybe the argument could be like, you know, dreams are lies you did. Like, that's how Johnny's seeing it. But it's like, right, their dreams are what kept them going, you know. Kate, what was it like her to kind of run away from people? Her husband's dream was to prove his father wrong, and you know, it just going like I just thought that was so interesting that he was saying like their dreams are what keep them going. Like, yeah, life isn't always good. Like, there are complexities, there are problems, but it's like, right, people's dreams are what keep them going. And it's basically like, right, once you've taken that away from humanity, dreams are what keep them going. And once you strip them of their dreams, yes, this is what humanity looks like. Their dreams are what keep them, you know, down a certain path, probably, you know, being very tactful or not saying everything that's on their mind, always being truthful, because that's not always good. But it's like, you're not just stripping away the lies, you're stripping away their dreams, which, once again, from Johnny's perspective, it's like they're one and the same. That's why he's like, well, fine, then I'll take your powers and become the new Lord of Dreams. And he's like, right, you want to take my power, then do it in my realm. Takes him to the realm of dreams. Well, first he's in the house, and he's following someone in his house that he doesn't remember, because he wasn't even born when Ethel was in that house. Everyone in his family is gone. Well, his dad died years ago. His mom obviously recently died. His brother's not technically dead. His brother's in eternal sleep. Once again, I don't think that's like the death. I think it is just like, no, like you are perpetually stuck in suspended animation type of sleep. Or maybe it is just pure death. Either way. He goes upstairs to follow someone, and it turns out to be Ethel, his mom, wearing the mask. And then it was her like choking him in a crib as a baby, then him choking her. It's over like her at 3 different points in her life. I thought that was kind of interesting, but he realizes it's a dream, and it's like, oh, this is your kingdom of lies, your throne, I will destroy everything. And he's so excited, and Dream's telling him not to do this. It's like, this is your last chance to save yourself, because if you destroy me, you're basically destroying all the dreamers in the world. You're destroying all those dreams, and dreams are a part of what makes humanity. And starts trying to absorb all of Dream's power. He's like, I did it. And the moment he crushed the jewel, I was like, oh, you played right into his hands. And I guess that was the point of like, oh, you'll have the Dream's heart in your hand, and I guess it was supposed to be the ruby, not telling him that, truth be told, is he was going to end up destroying it, which is like, oh, I never even thought of that, you know? The moment the ruby was destroyed, it released all his power. He never thought to make him, like, I never thought, because he wanted to keep the thing, but it's like, right, if I can make you destroy it, like, yeah, it might not be in my hands, but it restores all my powers, and I never have to worry about the ruby falling into anyone else's hands again. So, and I just love that cosmicness of like, right, you're small in the palm of his hands. It's like, are you going to kill me? And it's like, I could, and I should, but the truth be told is Dream doesn't blame him. You were a victim of something that wasn't even on you. Your father cursed you. When he stole that jewel from me and you ended up with it, you were cursed. But, you know, Johnny looked at it as a blessing. So it's like, right, I'm not going to kill you even though I should. And put him to sleep and locked him back into that room where he was. So I guess kind of putting Johnny in an eternal sleep just like his brother Alex. So, but then you look at the world, and the world is burning. It's in pure and utter chaos. And it turns out that Dream is like, yeah, this wasn't on the ruby. Yes, the ruby revealed like the truth to the world, but this wasn't on Johnny or the ruby. It happened to reveal all this humanity's unhealed scars, ended up letting them tear themselves apart. For tonight at least, humanity gets to sleep in peace. Tomorrow the rebuilding begins both in this world and in the dream world. So that was, I really thought it was just like a great episode, and just like how it was structured. I want to say, who was it? I want to say Hector Navarro had said like this scene, like I guess like Netflix might have released like this, like at least some stuff from this scene, the diner stuff. And I guess it might be a 1-for-1 from the comic, because some of the stuff is going to be straight at it, like some like bringing like scene to panel type of thing of like, yeah, it's straight from the panel, and other stuff is them retooling and reworking things to be more modern. But yeah, I really, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed that diner scene. I love it. And once again, because I get too heady about certain things, I do like the concept of like, right, someone having issues with the way the world is kind of built off of lies. Like, it isn't just like on these big lies, but like these small lies we tell each other on a daily basis, never telling each other the truth, because the truth isn't always something that needs to be told, because Johnny saw lies as this all-encompassing wrong thing. It's like, the world would be better if it was built in truth, but it's like, no, it's not. Like, because too brutal honesty isn't a good thing. It's not nice, it's not kind, but the argument is like, yeah, but lying is deceit. Once again, I think there's so many layers to it that it isn't so black and white. But we have our stinger at the end where one of Dream's siblings show up, which I know that to be, that actor is playing Desire. So it's like, I'm watching you, big brother. So I wonder, is Dream the oldest or not amongst the siblings? You'd assume, for Desire to be like, oh, you're the older sibling, it has to be like, there is a hierarchy of like who was born first, which came first, death or dreams or destiny. You'd assume it'd be a tie between Destiny and... Because I don't know what she is. I don't know whether Death is like the little sister or the big sister, like, in comparison to Dream. I don't know, like, who's older, who's younger. But it's interesting. I'm wondering, like, now you're like, oh, you're watching him and stuff, but it's like, yeah, like, once again, as Dream said in episode 2, not a single one of my fucking siblings came to help me. So, like, you're watching me now, but why? Like, once again, I guess... everyone sticks to their own lane. All this chaos was brought about because of Dream. So it's like, yeah, I'm like, why should I step in? But now it's like, oh, that's all played out, but I'm watching you. The Corinthian didn't get what he wanted, but I mean, the more time that Dream was preoccupied with all this other stuff, it gave him time to do whatever he's up to. So he was hopeful probably that with the jewel that Johnny would end up killing Dream and he'd be finally free. You think that if Dream died, he died too, but maybe that's not how it works. It's a little different here in this realm. Either way, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I thought it was great, and I'm so excited to see where things kind of go from here. This is one of those episodes where I'm like, once again, that's why I'm like, this show is like a slow burn, but I really appreciate, like, this is my kind of jam. This, once again, like, I keep always making comparison, but I have to use it, is Legion. Legion's a weird show that I don't think is legitimately for everyone, and it didn't have the biggest audience, and I think this show's definitely got that feel to it of, like, you're gonna either like this show, or you're gonna be, like, super, like, hate it, or indifferent to it. Like, I don't even know if there's going to be even a middle ground. I think either you're going to like this show or you're super not, because it's not going to be your thing. I think that's how that kind of goes. I feel like Legion's kind of in that same regard. But like, I feel like there's such like large, heady concepts, very much like Legion in that regard, that it's like not a typical show. Like, obviously Legion is not the superhero show you think it was, and I think this isn't the property that you would think it would be, especially on such a grand scale. But also, like, it's no different from Lucifer. You would not think that show would end up being what it was. Yeah, there's a cop procedural element to it, but that is all about dealing with, like, self-hatred and someone's, like, family issues. There's a lot of therapeutic elements to that show that is like, yeah, that makes that show so unique. The perspective, the lens that it's kind of, that story's told through and everything, and it's and I guess like it kind of gets that vein of itself. Like, yeah, the show ended up becoming its own thing, because I think it's quite different from the Lucifer, just like in general, not just in this Sandman comics or even the show, but even just the Lucifer comics on its own. Like, I think it's very different approach they took to that show. It just went down its own route. So I think the show, it just, I don't know. I'm just so excited to continue down this route. But I think it's just, this is such a weird show that I could definitely see it really not clicking for everyone. I kind of had that feeling from the beginning, especially the way some people talk about not just Neil Gaiman stuff, but even just Gaiman. I flip-flop between that. I'm not sure if it's Gaiman or Gaiman. Either way. A lot of Neil's work, I'm not going to call you by your first name, Mr. Gaiman or Gaiman, his work Once again, like, I loved American Gods. That's a slow burn of a show that did not have the biggest audience either. So that's kind of my concern. But I'll talk about that more when we get to the end of the season. See where the next half of this season ends up taking us. I'm excited to see what happens next, especially now that his siblings, or at least one sibling's popped up and started creeping around, and seeing what Desire's up to. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.